All right, so this is a very simple, extremely high level view of our business automation framework. There's levels to this, and we'll get more and more in depth, and you'll see this framework kind of grow as we continue this webinar series. But in essence, there's three main steps of automating your business and taking steps towards business automation. You have to start out with a clear strategy, understand what it is that you're hoping to accomplish. Part of that includes being informed and understanding what tools are available, what strategies are available, what's being done and what's actually working versus what's just hype, understanding the regulatory environment for your industry, and also, yeah, just how you're going to handle the implementation. And so anyways, you got to have a good strategy and know what your goals are. From there, there's two types of adoption that need to happen at the same time. And when we say adoption, specifically talking about AI and automation tools, there's top down, which is what most companies are used to when talking about IT tools, which means there's an executive or some executive stakeholders, as well as the IT department or some IT experts who decide on here's the business objective, here's the tool we're going to implement. And then it's often like a lengthy project to get the tool stood up, get everything configured the way that you want it to be. And these projects can go for months, depending on the size of your company, maybe like a year plus, to implement something like a CRM or a marketing automation platform. So there's a lot of companies that are approaching AI adoption that way. But what they don't realize is this is similar to the internet in its scale and where it applies in its scope, where AI as a tool and as a resource can actually be implemented from the bottom up of organizations very effectively. It's something that users can just get started with and start using and start adding value to the organization. So we're going to talk about that bottom up adoption process today and the things needed and the recommendations to get that right. So anyways, high level, want to form a good strategy and then make sure the foundation is laid for your people to get the best use out of AI. And then there are top-down adoption problems like, strategic initiatives, things that are going to be more of a custom build or a customized tool that you want to implement. So let's talk about bottom-up adoption today. There's essentially four main pillars here that we'll talk about. The goal of bottom-up adoption is to get all of those little efficiency gains, the things that are going to make all levels of your organization more effective. So AI is on a trajectory to replace a lot of knowledge work tasks, but for the foreseeable future, there has to be a person in the loop. Right now, the hallucination rate is just too high and it gets things wrong too often. Right now, people have to stay involved. So it hasn't really fully replaced anybody that is making any level of strategic decisions, including, developers that need to decide what does this need to look like? What is the final product? So even though they can write code a lot faster, it isn't replacing the entire feedback loop of idea to finished product to deployment. There's a lot of people in those loops having to check and make sure things are going right. Your experts are the most prepared to do this because they know what a good job looks like. So the number one thing you can do to start getting immediate value out of AI is to empower your experts to use it and find out all the ways that it can make them more efficient. You're going to find that your people will surface the most valuable ways to go kind of all in on specific AI initiatives. Because by that point, they're going to have prompts and workflows that they've been using that are working. And they're saying, hey, we're hitting roadblocks that would make this even more effective. And so by that point, you already have good data that their process is effective and it could be more effective with some investment instead of starting like a multi-year implementation project for a big tool, like monolithic implementation that you're just hoping has the effect that you want it to. So anyways, empowering your experts, you can overnight start getting efficiency gains. People will get things done faster, more efficiently. And then often those solutions are shareable. And so, anyways, diving into kind of like how to get this right, I want to start talking about policy. A lot of people are afraid to use AI because they're worried that they'll get fired or that, it's not approved. There's a lot of companies with sweeping no AI policies, but there's like some good statistics and research starting to come out that over half of employees are using AI and just not telling anyone about it. They're sort of, they hide it for various reasons. One, maybe there's this policy against AI, but more often than not, it's not a hard, fast policy. It's more of a kind of an unspoken, like, I don't know what's going to happen if I start talking about how I'm using AI to get some work done. Is that frowned upon? Am I going to be expected to suddenly be like way more efficient? Am I going to automate myself out of a job here? So out of an abundance of caution, people are just using ChatGPT. Often they don't know how to toggle the options to make it safe to use ChatGPT, where they're not gonna train on your data. Anyways, point is, it's being used whether or not companies know about it. So the best way to kind of remove the roadblock of secrecy and people not sharing things, and honestly put yourself in a much better situation from a safety and compliance and security standpoint, is to be clear in your policies that you want people to use AI, that you expect that they should try and find ways to use AI to make their jobs go better, and that they should be sharing what they're doing and leaning into AI. That's kind of the first step. All right, tools. So I mentioned ChatGPT. I think that's probably the one most people know the most about, but there's a lot of tools. There's Anthropic Anthropic makes the Claude models, Gemini by Google. There's Mistral. There's a lot of AI providers. So one of the best things that you can do to kickstart the process of people using this is to pay for a general purpose AI provider. What that does is most of the providers, actually all the ones I mentioned, will focus on ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini. When you are on a paid plan, the terms of service changes, so that they say that they're not going to train on the user inputs. So essentially, they're not going to keep your data and then use it to train their other models. It keeps the things that your employees and users are saying to AI private. So that's essential, because you don't want someone to be talking about something that may be proprietary or some information about your customers, and then that going into a data set that later trains AI models that can theoretically spit it back out just because somebody asked for it. So from a safety standpoint, getting a paid plan solves a lot of those problems. The other thing is, now your team can have sort of a team's organization that has, administration, security. You can kind of start to control who can see what on a lot of these plans. And then most important, collaboration. So moving to talk about collaboration here, the chatbot interfaces. You can spend a lot of time creating a prompt that works really well, but it does take some time. There's, they kind of call it prompt engineering, to start with, hey, this is a thing I want to get done faster. Maybe there's a report where I plug in some data and then I need the report formatted a certain way. Maybe it needs to be consistent in like the color scheming, or exactly how maybe it's a data visualization or something that you're making, and it needs to look exactly a certain way. You can spend a lot of time kind of tweaking that prompt to say, special tricks like, you are an expert at data visualization. This is the data that I'm going to give you. I need maybe like a histogram where it's kind of the bars are separated into buckets of, how many values, and this is the color that I want the bars to be, all these things. And then now you have a prompt though, so it takes some time, but now you have a prompt that can be reused. And so somebody said, okay, this actually works. Well, what if they're not the only person to be generating those types of reports? Most of these plans, these paid plans, have a way to save that prompt in a way that it can be shared and reused. So for ChatGPT, they have both custom GPTs that will do this, and then the newer version of that is projects. So somebody could create a project really similar to a space in Perplexity, like I showed before, where it's got custom instructions that are shared by every thread. And so those projects can be shared. And so somebody could create a project with that special type of visualization. And then somebody could just start a thread and say, hey, just here's the data and do the thing. And then it just does it. Because so anyways, you save a lot of time and you start sharing the efficiency gains across your whole organization. It's another benefit of going with some of the paid plans. And then of course, training. You'll want to train your people how to use the chatbots effectively. What can it do? Can it create charts? What does that look like? Helping them understand how to create a good prompt, things to try to get the most value out of it. And then of course, how to use those collaboration tools to share what they're learning. And then this kind of comes back to policy and some of the things we were talking about there, but you'll want to provide spaces for them to share what they're doing. Talk about if somebody has a workflow that really works well. At Solved, we have an internal message board where people can share, hey, I made, our general purpose provider is Google Gemini. They'll say, hey, I made a new gem. That's the Gemini equivalent of like a project. And here's where you can find it and use it in your own workspace. And this is what it does. Or, in your meetings, have a chance to like do a spotlight on what somebody's been doing that's working really well. That'll start to create a culture internally where it's normal to use AI to talk about it, and where there's a social sort of reward for coming up with ways to make the business more efficient. All right, so zooming back out, those are the main pillars and part of bottom-up adoption. Of course, on each of those things, you could go really, really deep and talk about exactly what are our policies going to be. What's the provider we're going to use? What are the pros and cons between providers? How should we structure these trainings? Where can we find training materials? All of that is part of Solve's AI Adoption Accelerator. That's designed to start at the beginning with strategy definition and then talk about specific things that you can do to assist with bottom-up adoption and top-down. And you leave that workshop with actionable next steps, in a lot of cases with an AI provider, with training materials that you can use to go train your teams, with somebody assigned to kind of iterate across use cases and find out more and more ways where the AI can be used, with a list of strategic initiatives, with materials to understand what tools are available and what's just hype versus what's actually valuable being used today. So the whole goal of that AI Adoption Accelerator is to be extremely comprehensive so that you can leave and essentially adopt AI that day, start having your people using it and get the gains from bottom-up adoption, and then start on the strategic initiatives that make up your top-down adoption. So that is what the AI Adoption Accelerator is. I'll hop over to our website really quick. If you want to learn more, where you want to go is to solve.cloud. This is our website. You'll see this in our homepage. If you have questions or just want to chat, maybe there's questions that came up from this webinar or others, you can schedule a time with one of our practice directors, and their calendars are here. You can schedule a 15-minute sort of discovery call consultation. These are absolutely free. Happy to answer any questions that you need and then direct you where you want to go, whether that's a Salesforce implementation or diving more into a specific AI initiative. And of course, you can fill out a form as well if you don't want to set up a meeting just yet, and then we can contact you. From the homepage, if you click on the AI expertise button, you can see a lot more information about our approach to AI. And then there's this AI Adoption Accelerator workshop, which again will take you to some information about it and a form that you can fill out. And we'll contact you. Again, that's completely free. We'll go through more details of what that looks like, pricing, all of that, and then move forward, get you adopting AI and benefiting from the new opportunities and new things you can do with AI, and also saving a lot of money because the things you don't have to do anymore because you're making use of AI to automate your business. So feel free to check us out there.